The OnlyFans is also owned by somebody who identifies as Jewish as well. So point that I'm trying to say is, a Muslim, it's against our faith to produce content like that, to consume content like that, to watch content like that. Even when it comes to gambling, alcohol and stuff like that, that is not stuff that we like to spread within society to contribute to its degradation. When people try to justify that and say, no, but we're trying to get Hamas, we're trying to get this boogeyman that apparently can't be got, that's some abstract boogeyman. How does that make you feel when Britain is arming such a endeavor and people, do you think extremism would decrease, or do you think it's going to increase?
I'm afraid I think it's going to increase. Yeah, I'm afraid so. I don't want it to, obviously.
I think you're right as well. I agree.
There's other things. I also don't agree with the way that war was started. I think that the
1947?
Hamas was in the wrong doing that. Starting it. And then followed by, I think Israel's been in the wrong since the way that they've been acting.
When do you think it started?
I can't remember exactly. Was it October 7th? I'm sure the war started a lot before then.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
the main problem was it October 7th?
Well, I mean, that's what the Israelis would have us believe. October the 7th. That's what they want to drill. However, it started obviously from 1947. That's when, when it was written that, you know what, this is where you guys are gonna go. This is where they're gonna go. We're giving them a chunk of your land. Or post Balfour Declaration, where some people have analysed that letter. I don't know if you've seen the Balfour Declaration. And then it starts with Dear Rothschild, and you've got the higher ups in the British establishment addressing a wealthy family man. Like, how can you, if we were to gift each other stuff, if we were acquaintances, I'll give you maybe a box of celebrations, maybe some perfume, maybe some socks. But here Rothschild's been gifted a country. You're like, can you gift somebody a country when there's people living on there? And that's where it's really started. There was something called the Nakba, which was the forced expulsion of the Palestinians and the mass killing of Palestinians since then.
I also have to say, I've been I don't mind moaning about my own government and the Americans for what they've been doing. But as I say, Hamas, as far as I was concerned, should not have gone in like they did on the 7th of October. And also, I'm concerned about the hostages. I'm not happy with the way that the hostages have been treated.
I agree with you.
I'm worried, I'm worried.
Do you know there's hostages as young as 7?
Yeah, I'm worried.
Did you know this?
I want to give the hostages back now because I'm concerned about torture on both sides. There's going to be some hostages going back with some possibly. And is this the reason why neither side wants to really give hostages back? Is it because the signs of torture are going to be there?
I mean, if we look at the evidence so far, because obviously we're taking whatever we see from the media and from the studies that are there at the moment, when we compare hostages coming out of both countries, when we see hostages coming out from Palestine, they seem to be fine and in good health. But when we see hostages coming out of Israel, we see them very scrawny, very thin, food, water deprived.
I can't say that. I haven't seen it.
And there's another that maybe you could search up. It's called the Sidi Timan camp, in which it was all over the news, the New York Post, CNN, BBC. There was actually video footage of Israelis sexually abusing prisoners. And the sort of stuff that they were taking rods and they were sticking it up the rectums of the Palestinian prisoners to such a degree it would rupture the internal organs. And when they took these people to the doctors, because then the prison guards were a bit frightened, they were a bit worried that what's going to happen. What then happened was the doctor was like, what the hell have you been doing to these people? And it was all over the media. And B'Tselem, who's an Israeli-based human rights organization, they wrote a report called Welcome to Hell. And in there they talk about 10,000 Palestinians that have been sexually abused, physically abused, mentally, emotionally abused. That's something recorded. That's something evidenced by the authorities there.
It's just disgusting and shouldn't happen.
But then you know what happened thereafter? Sorry, what's your name?
Oh, John.
John, my name is Ishan. So John, you know what happened afterwards? This was the thing that really kind of made a lot of people question the mentality of the current society in Israel, which was these abusers that were standing trial were then brought onto TV shows and news shows, and they were actually being humanized, which of course is unheard of when it comes to criminals undergoing a trial. That's something you don't get involved in. On top of that, there was a clip, and you can search this up, of a rabbi putting his hand on his head going, "Well done, my son, well done. You are clearly attacking the enemy, and what you're doing is right, and we are with you." So the question is that we know abusing, raping is terrible, abhorrent, is bad. But when it's being celebrated on Israeli television, when it's being celebrated by the rabbis on, again, television, we're in the UK, how are we seeing this? We're seeing clips from their channels being broadcast and sent over here. This sort of stuff is indicative of a sick society. A society that has convinced itself that they have a God-given right to land. Because when it comes to this conversation, George Galloway says, I don't believe God is a realtor. Like, he doesn't deal with this is your land, this is your land, this is this, this is that. And especially if you're killing children, if you're killing innocent people, because over half, well, according to I think the BBC, it was 70% of the casualties in Gaza are women and children. So John, when we hear this, I mean, when it comes to I don't know if you remember Ukraine, when Ukraine happened, even when we went to the self-checkouts in Tesco, they would ask, do you want to donate to Ukraine?
Yes.
Even when you go to your bank and you take out money, at the end it says, would you like to give 30 pence to Ukraine?
Yeah.
You had sports stars going onto the pitch with, I heart Ukraine on there and support for Ukraine. So there was all of this, support for Ukraine. However, when it comes to Palestine, if I was to ask you, John, which high-profile celebrity or even politician would you say that has stood up for Palestine that comes to your head?
George. Surname. I'm sorry, I do suffer a little bit of dementia, and
no problem.
George.
I'll bear with you, no problem.
I can't pick it.
Is it George Galloway?
Yeah, it's George Galloway for one. Really, he's the only one that comes to mind.
Exactly.
But then again, there's not that many on the right, if you call it the right of centre. Let's say there's not many people that have come out for that. Okay, you got the farmer guy and a couple of others, but again,
in terms of
all keeping what they think to themselves, aren't they? And they're not coming out on either side, I don't think.
I think the Israeli lobby, especially when it comes to the UK, more so with the US, is very influential and it's very powerful. If you look at some of the major institutions here, the gatekeepers of the data are Israeli companies. Whether you look at Nice Systems, whether you look at Celebrite, whether you look at many others as well.
Yes.
And looking after the Ministry of Defense data, police data. I mean, Nice Systems and Celebrite. If you were to, God forbid, get stopped in the street by the police and they check your phone, for them to break into your phone, they'd have to use a couple of softwares, Celebrite and Nice Systems.
They've just done the Tommy Robinson, isn't it?
Well, Tommy Robinson, I think he was incarcerated because he was, one of the reasons was when the whole grooming thing was going on, he was trying to get to America with a false passport. Another time,
Which he shouldn't have done.
Yeah. And then he was trying to interfere in a trial, a grooming trial, and he was, I think, the victims had been waiting months for it to go to trial, and he just turned up with a camera to record for his documentary.
That's not why they took his phone, though. They took his phone when they arrested him for contempt of court. That's when they insisted on taking his phone. Because he wouldn't give them the phone. They then arrested him, or they're going to arrest him on terrorism charges. So,
which is ironic. So
he's no terrorist, is he?
So they use Celebrite, and they use nice systems to even break into access Tommy Robinson's phone if he doesn't give the password. And it's ironic you brought up Tommy Robinson, because Tommy Robinson is, of course, heavily funded by certain Israeli think tanks.
By Israel.
So, and the EDL, the English Defence League, initially.
I'm not saying he's not, but I presume that the Palestinian side would be well funded as well. So, I mean, what do you think's wrong by Tommy Robinson getting funded by the Israelis or anybody else?
I think it's wrong when you're trying to do a sleight of hand. So when you claim to be putting the British people first, standing up for the British people, then you should stick by your words, and you should be sticking up for the British people without letting foreign interference guide your direction in different ways. If with Palestinians,
is there any proof that is obviously proof he's taking money, let's say, from the Israelis? Is there anything he's doing? Do you think there's something he's doing for them that for that money, or I haven't seen anything that he's doing for the Israelis?
So the EDL, you're familiar with the EDL, yeah? English Defence League.
Yeah, if you go back 10 years, yes.
Yeah, but what's interesting, because obviously he was a founder of that, or one of the founders of that. Did you know what the initial name of the EDL was?
No, I don't.
It was English and Jewish Defence League.
Okay.
So that's how it started. It was not particularly putting the interests of the Brits forward. Now, if you want to do that, like the Trump slogan, "Make America Great Again," it should be "Make America Great Again," not "Make America and Israel Great Again." Do you see?
Yes.
So if you've got certain people that come along and say, "Look, we are all for America and Israel," it's clear. It's clear what your mentality is. The ADL, of course, our lobby group.
Should we be going back that far? I mean, lots of people make mistakes. He was a football hooligan maybe 15, 20 years ago, but I've done a lot of things I'm 76 years old now. So if you go back to my younger days, I've done a lot of things that I'm not proud of. It doesn't make me a bad person now. And I think when you think of Tommy Robinson came out of the EDL, walked away from it because he didn't like where it was going. It was racist, which I believe is not. I've not heard anything come from Tommy Robinson that says he's racist. Nothing at all. But he probably was in those days. But that's 10 years ago. I don't think we can pull him to bits now for what he did 10 years ago.
Yeah, there's a slight distinction what I'm saying. I'm saying when it comes to his goal, a lot of people think is putting Britain first. Yeah, but when you are affiliating with a foreign government, you're getting funding from the likes of Middle East Forum, Rebel Media, Ezra Levant, then we can see that obviously things are going to be a bit skewed. And there's a clip of Tommy Robinson, it's all over YouTube, in which he says that if there was a war tomorrow,
I remember.
I would be on the side of Israel. Now, somebody saying that who claims to put Britain first, I think.
Did he say that? Was that when he was doing that sort of the university and college talks? It was a while ago.
But here's the difference. Let's take people in a similar kind of position as him. Jada Franson, who was part of Britain First, and Nick Griffin, part of the BNP.
Yes.
Both Nick Griffin and Jada Franson, they have retracted clearly what they've said in the past and the mistakes that they've made. Tommy Robinson, barely even, the co-founder of the EDL, he was caught doing sexual abuse. And so was 17 other members members, either members or supporters of the EDL, who I can give you the names if you want, who he hasn't condemned. And that was during his time at the EDL.
Certainly condemn Nick Griffin.
So it's those 17 people that were doing sexual abuse under Tommy's watch. The question is, why are you not speaking out against it, Tommy? That's the first thing. Number two, why are you not putting Britain first like you should be doing? Why involve a foreign power and even accept foreign money? When it comes to Palestinian groups, the reason you know they're Palestinian is because they're not hiding it. They say, we are advocating for the rights of Palestine. They don't claim, John, to be advocating for Britain, to put Britain first, the British white women, British white men. Tommy claims to be doing that.
Can I ask you, who was Tommy talking about then when he said he would stand up for Israel in the war? I mean, that wasn't against England, was it?
But regardless...
Who was it? Who was it against? I mean, if it was against the Palestinian people...
He didn't specify.
No, but I could understand him saying that if he had to choose between the people of Palestine and Israel, then he would choose Israel.
He didn't say that.
No, but surely I'm presuming that's what he meant. He didn't mean he'd stand up for Israel against Great Britain. There's no way. He didn't say that either. But I'm sure there's no way that's the case.
I mean,
that man, as far as I'm concerned, is a lover of Great Britain.
He is there?
He's a lover of Great Britain.
A lover of Israel and Great Britain. That's my argument.
But, yeah, I know he said Israel first, but that's not against Great Britain. If you ask him, which I can guarantee 99.9%, that he would say he would back Great Britain against Israel.
We'll have to ask him, but the thing is, John, when you see 1 in 5 Brits that are skipping a meal just so they can continue their living standard and survive in these tumultuous times, I would say you should be putting Britain first. That's the priority. That's why people are so intent on securing borders. That's why they're so intent on worrying about what's going on here. And that's why even yourself, you've been honest with me, and I appreciate that. When we see the unjust, disproportionate actions of Israel abroad, we don't want part of that, and many Brits don't want a part of that.
I don't want part of that.
That's what I'm saying. And that's why I think it should be somebody that puts Britain first, rather than Britain and Israel first. And I do think, right, what have we gained from Israel as a country, as a nation? What have they done for us?
I don't know, putting money into this country.
Nope, they've done the opposite.
People,
most of London's...
business-wise, yeah.
Most money that's been pumped into the country has been done by the Qataris, and either Qatar, UAE, and in there, of course, Abu Dhabi and the likes. Most, whether it's the Shard, whether it's, most of, when you look at central London, it's owned and funded. And even, you had the likes of Barclays Bank. Yeah. Barclays Bank, Heathrow Airport, a lot of these British institutions have got big contributions by the Qataris, by the UAE guys. Who's been funded by Israel? What's Israel doing other than asking and begging for money, other than putting British lives at risk? Since the Balfour Declaration, pre-Balfour, like when the Brits were in Palestine, you had the Ergun and the Stern Gang, 2 terrorist Israeli groups that were killing British soldiers, like in the King David Hotel. They were killing British soldiers, John. And then afterwards, they took, by hook or by crook, they took Israel, and they've been doing that ever since 1947. And they've been sucking this country dry to such a degree 1 in 5 Brits are struggling to feed their kids. And that's why, John, I'm saying, put Britain first. That's the logic. And somebody that compromises that.
Well, who's not? You're saying Tommy. He's not putting Britain first, but I disagree with that.
No, but when...
In fact, through his media, I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to ask Tommy that question.
I think you should.
Yeah.
I
will.
Because...
I'm going to go home to do it tonight.
So, let me give you a few points. Number one, He was heavily involved with rebel media, which of course gets its funding from Israel, that has and puts forward its Israeli agenda. He gets funding from the likes of Middle East Forum, and there's a few other names that skip my mind. But you can just go on Mint Press News, type in Tommy Robinson, and his funding will come up. He's there with going on Israel, standing on tanks, and saying, "I will put Israel first," and saying, "I'm a Zionist."
Can I ask when that was?
That was I don't know the exact date, but all of the stuff is available online. But it would be worth looking at when it was, if Tommy had retracted and said, "You know what? I misspoke. I apologize. I'm going to put Britain first and Israel second." But John,
I'm try and get that answer for you.
Fantastic.
Well,
So
all my batteries are gone, so I don't really want to stand in front
No
of
problem.
you and,
No problem,
and
no
not having.
no problem. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you, John.
That's still going. So
Okay.
That's good.
Okay.
But I'm not against you guys.
Of course.
I just want it all to stop. However we have to do it, as long as it's legal and fair. Let's hope it now finishes.
Let me give you one other example before you leave. The 5-6 biggest pornography sites that are famous, of course, in the US and the UK. Guess who they're owned by? A Muslim, a Jew, a Hindu, a Sikh? Who do you think?
I would not have a... Ask me the question again. The pornography sites.
Like Pornhub and the like.
Legal ones? Or
Legal ones.
Legal ones.
The biggest ones. Who are they co-owned? Who are they owned and run by? Would you say it's a Jewish rabbi? Do you think it's a Christian priest? Do you think it's a Muslim imam? Or do you think it's a Hindu pundit?
From what I see, I would...
And you have zero lifelines.
Yeah, I would add another one in there, and I would add in the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Because they're, as far as I'm concerned, they're,
Who do you think?
the biggest bunch of paedophiles.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say the Catholic Church. You're going to tell me it's wrong, and I'm guessing you're going to say it's the Jewish people. But
Well, there's somebody, because you've got that recording, I've got that recording. Look how many cameras there are. So if I say something...
I haven't noticed. Hi, guys.
So the reason why that's helpful is if I say names or if I say dates and you want to go home and you want to check them,
Yes.
then you know I wasn't just flapping. You can double check it, and then you can continue the journey on from there.
Yeah.
The guy who you should search for is someone called Solomon Friedman. Solomon Friedman
Okay.
is somebody who co-runs Mind Geek, which is the umbrella term for like a bunch. There's like over 15 biggest pornography sites, and he is a trained rabbi. The person who owns OnlyFans, which is, I don't know if you're aware, it's the site that is contributing to the degradation of the West, where you have our mothers, our sisters, our daughters going on there and selling their nudes and putting inappropriate videos on there and trying to make a living from there.
Question: are those sites illegal?
They're legal.
So
No, but here's the thing.
can't say too much, really, can we?
I'm not.
About-
I'm leaving the conclusion to you, John.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you that this is on the back of you saying that, you know what, I don't have an issue with you guys, referring to the Muslims. And reason why
Well,
I'm
I
saying...
do have some issues with you guys.
Well, it's definitely worth... you should... Now's the best time.
No, I had issues with
Everyone.
well,
Yeah.
with both sides.
Yeah.
And not only both sides, some of the other sides as well.
But just to finish the point...
Coming in on the side.
But just to finish the point, the OnlyFans is also owned by somebody who identifies as Jewish as well. So point that I'm trying to say is, a Muslim, it's against our faith to produce content like that, to consume content like that, to watch content like that. Even when it comes to gambling, alcohol and stuff like that, that is not stuff that we like to spread within society to contribibute to its degradation.
But now you're moving me on to the grooming gangs now, and to ask why does it seem to be okay for Muslims to be involved in grooming gangs, and also for certain Muslims to be marrying children at 9 years old and having sex with them shortly after. Why is that?
Which one do you want me to answer first? The grooming one or the marrying young?
Whichever one you prefer.
I mean,
marrying young, I suppose it's
okay.
a better way to
So marrying young, if we look, majority of the child marriages that are taking place because India and China are the most populated countries on the planet. The highest that's taking place in India are like 85%, and it's done by Hindus. If you look in America, majority of the child marriages, they're still taking place till this day, more so in certain states than others. Again, it's been done by white, Caucasian, Christian men. For Muslims to marry somebody that is not mentally, physically mature, nor is it socially acceptable, it's not allowed. For somebody to do that, they are contravening the injunctions of Islam.
Did your God not do that himself?
No. God. We don't believe God got married. No.
Oh, not married officially, or
No. God. We don't believe God was a human. We don't believe God was a human.
Okay.
God, we believe, is so grand, so majestic, so powerful. He didn't need to come on earth as a human being. What you're probably referring to is our Prophet, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
I was actually, yes.
Yeah. We don't believe him to be a God. We believe him to be a messenger. And at that time, he married somebody that was 9. But the criteria in Islam is that whoever you marry, they have to be mentally ready, they have to be physically ready, and it has to be socially acceptable. If those criteria are not met, you are not allowed to marry somebody. And I'm sure you know, 1400 years ago, whether it's America, whether it's Britain, even Romeo Juliet, Mary was like 12. Romeo Juliet was 12. Mary, the mother of Jesus, according to the Catholic Encyclopedia, was also 12. Elvis Presley married some. So in that culture at that time, they did marry young because the life expectancies were very low as well. And there was no such concept as childhood. Childhood came post-industrial revolution, because in those days it was all about survival.
Yeah.
When you grew up, you had to go out there, you had to fend for yourself, you had to bring money in and stuff like that.
Is that still acceptable in the Muslim faith?
So that's why I mentioned the third thing, John, which is it has to be socially acceptable. A Muslim in this society should not be marrying. In fact, I'm sure you'll agree with me, John, girls are not mentally ready. I would even argue, forget 9, forget 16 and 18.
Yeah.
I'd say girls aren't even mature by 20. Am I wrong?
Yes. No, you're not wrong. They're still they're still children.
So if you look at majority of the Muslims, we're not marrying young. We can't, because the girls are simply not ready. The women are not ready. I would argue the women aren't ready either, because that's why the 3 criteria. In the UK, it's not socially acceptable. Therefore, no. The second criteria, they have to be mentally ready. They're not mentally ready. Physically ready, that's debatable. But here's a question, John. Which age do you think girls should be getting married at? And why?
I think 16 years old is too young.
Why 16?
Because I've got 30 children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. So I've got a lot of experience
30,
in them growing up. And I would say that 16, a lot of my girls have been definitely too young to get married, because they're just not mentally, they're physically capable, but they're certainly not mentally. Not ready for marriage at that age. I suppose, I don't know, I'm going to pick an age. 18, they are starting to...
Why 18?
Only again because I've seen my own children that at 18 years old, they've been going to work for maybe a couple of years, or they've been to college, university, gone out, done their gap years, become more adult because they've been out on their own. They're not out on their own at 16. They said that it's too young, but 18 years old, they've been out and done stuff.
What would you say in a different society? For example, in Estonia, the marital age is 15.
Yeah.
would you say they're wrong?
Well, yes. I would say our own law of 16 is wrong. I think it should be 18 because that's when I believe they've become adults.
Ironically, India would say you guys are wrong because they believe the age should be 20 or 21.
Really, yes. Yeah. And what age do they get married at, though?
Well, unofficially,
The Pakistan is very young?
Unofficially, the Indians get married very young because obviously it's a very big country and they can't afford to keep their children at home just doing nothing. They want them to go out, start fending for themselves, so they do get them wedded very young.
And what about wedding too close to maybe what's healthy relative-wise? A lot of cousins, and I'm not sure if you marry closer than cousins, probably not.
I mean, cousins...
Closer than cousins would have to be a brother or sister, wouldn't it? Which I presume you're not allowed.
No. So
first cousins you are.
Yeah, so first cousins you are, I mean, we've seen it in the royal family. This is something that even the British establishment is not really unaware of, but first cousins only, it becomes an issue if you do it one after another. If you do it subsequently for 3-4 generations, because of course the gene pool is very restricted. If you do it once, then you have a gap of a couple of generations, then you do it again. There's no real issue with that. And again, this is...
There's a one-off and then outbreed, basically. You've got to bring in some related.
Some say that's what the royal family's been doing because it's got obviously German blood, and you know there's all sorts of things going on. That's what they brought in Diana. They brought in the Prince Harry's wife.
Yeah.
Prince.
They brought in the Germans years ago, of course.
Well, the Germans, yeah.
So come on, grooming.
Yes.
Grooming gangs. How can we? I mean.
So let me ask you.
Thousands of, and it is Pakistani Muslims doing it. I know you get some white Brits that are paedophiles, of course you do. There's plenty of them out there, but there's no gangs. So, go on, tell me.
Okay, let's see. When you say no gangs, the Cornwall gang,
white gangs.
Yeah, Cornwall, the Cornwall gang, they were caught. The Glasgow 7, they were caught, and not only were they caught, they were caught sticking kids inside microwaves. They were stuck filming, giving cameras to kids, filming the abuse of other kids, blackmailing them and abusing them whilst others were watching. It's stuff that I just don't want to get into. They're called the Glasgow 7. It was in Sky News. The Cornwall gang, absolute disgusting, abhorrent people. To such a degree, John, the Home Office actually looked into it. Yeah, the Home Office, this was a good few years ago when Sajid Javed was the foreign...
They did the national
the inquiry.
Investigation where they sort of left out the grooming gangs on, was it 400-page document, and sort of Rotherham was mentioned once. Unbelievable. I think it was only, six towns in total mentioned.
So you're referring to the J report?
Yeah.
So in the J report, what you're saying is typically said amongst certain right-wing people. This is something that they like peddling, so it's become like a false information thing. A thing that they don't mention, John, is there were actually two reports. One was the general report, and you're right, Rotherham or Rochdale was mentioned once.
Yeah.
However, there was a separate report that was dedicated to Rochdale or Rotherham, and which mentioned it copiously and a lot. And they tend not to mention that report, which goes together.
Yeah, was that report...
it was published together.
Yeah.
And it was mentioned a lot of times in there.
Yes. Was that
and that's the report.
Where they didn't have to, for instance, policemen. There were 6 policemen in Manchester under Burnham, but they did that report, and because it wasn't by law, can't think what they call the reports by when it has to be by law. They have to turn up. If they don't tell the truth, they're put in prison. What they did was those policemen just gave up their 6 jobs, went and pulled their pension, and just didn't go to the investigation. I mean, those reports, those investigations are just a waste of bloody time, and they didn't do them, did they?
So the investigations take different pools of evidence into consideration. Indeed, the police officers and what they're bringing to the table does get taken into consideration. However, we're talking more about the victims and the perpetrators. And the J report is the one that gets oft quoted by the right wing and also by the left wing as well.
Yes.
It was a report that did span, I think, a good 7-8 years, and did take, like, if I'm not mistaken, either 50 million or 100 million, if not more. So there was a great deal of resources put into it. So the first thing, of course, Rochdale was mentioned in a separate dedicated report, which doesn't get mentioned. And another thing as well, there were 20 recommendations given by the writer of that report, which at that time the Conservative government conveniently did not take on board, did not follow, and ignored. These were 20 recommendations. They were all ignored. So what then happened was, later on, the Home Office did one that looked at a greater pool. It was more of a nationwide thing, and they concluded that 85% of group-based, because grooming is not a legal or a technical term, so it's something that's been propped up. It's more like a media term. It's called group-based child sexual exploitation, and that 85% plus are done by white individuals. That was the conclusion. So yes, indeed.
There was some argument about that, though,
Sorry?
There was some argument about that the figures were twisted or changed to get the result that they wanted, because they didn't want it to be a racist thing, didn't they? Or they felt that if they put the exact numbers down, that it would have caused problems in the Pakistani community.
Initially, people did think that, but it wasn't to do with the Home Office report. What that is, that's linked with Priti Patel, and Priti Patel peddled that because Sajid Javed was the Home Secretary. Priti Patel was really trying to get the report out, and she was actually leveraging it for her political dominion, if you want to say, for her to make her seem better. The report was delayed. There was a petition put out, but eventually when it came out, because it didn't tick the boxes Priti Patel wanted it to tick, Priti Patel just put out a few statements saying, "Oh, I don't agree with it. Oh, that's not accurate. It's got to be these Asians. It's got to be these guys." But she didn't back it up with anything. There was no evidence. She didn't then reopen the inquiry. She didn't do any of this sort of stuff. What was actually done was the Home Office came with that data, and it shut a lot of people up. And it's not the only one. The I think it's CSA or CSE 2023 and 2024 report. That's the latest one that we have.
Yes.
That also concluded that the majority are done by white people, and the police had their own, the NPCC, they've got that report. So there are 3 reports which all conclude that a majority of the perpetrators are indeed white. However, we're talking nationwide. However, when you look at certain areas like Telford, like Rotherham and Rochdale, John, the perpetrators, the sick, twisted, heinous, cancers to society, indeed they were there, as they are in other parts of the country. They happened to be of a certain race. But I say to you, whether they're Asian, whether they're white, whether they're black, if anybody does anything to a child, hang them.
I would ask you something which I haven't got any proof of, but I believe that when some of these, certainly the Muslim ones that have been to prison, done a little bit of time, when they come back to their communities, they're accepted back into their communities without that community really looking down on them. That wouldn't happen in a white community. If paedophiles come back, no one wants them anywhere near the place. They're all sent to other towns. That's not happening in the Muslim around the Muslim faith. Faith's the wrong word. Around the Muslim community.
So-
Why do they accept them back?
So here's the other thing. There's a few things that you've said that I think are very good points. The one thing that I want to emphasize is the reports are emphasizing that they are Asian grooming gangs. The faith and the link that, or the inspiration, because for you to say that they were Muslim grooming gangs, a person would have to prove that they were inspired or motivated by their Muslim faith. And if you look in the Islamic faith, drinking alcohol is haram, it's forbidden. So to plow little kids and drink yourself, it's not allowed. To do drugs is not allowed. To have premarital sex, forget not allowed, John. It can even lead to capital punishment. Do you know what I mean by capital punishment?
Yes,
Like Islam and Sharia law don't play games with that sort of stuff.
No.
So they were Asians that happen to be Muslim. They didn't do it on the basis of their faith, and that causality, and that's why you've got academics like Ella Cobain, who's also done the Cobain report. She didn't link it to their religion.
Say that, but a lot of those same people went to court and said that they thought it was okay in their own country, that it was okay. They felt they did nothing wrong. Some of them got away with it, some of them didn't. So it was in their belief that having sex with young children is okay.
So here's the difference now. These individuals, did you notice when you said in our country, in our culture? The culture is different from the religion. In the Islamic culture and the Asian culture are not the same. Yeah, they're different. One is based upon country and human values. The other is based upon godly values. They are distinctive. And as a Muslim, we're told that if your religion goes against culture, then you take a religion. These individuals weren't religious, as you can tell from their actions. There's nothing religious about it. They were talking culturally. If they were to go and speak to an Asian woman, the Asian woman, there's more politics there. Oh, I'm not allowed to come out late. Oh, my dad's going to come. I'm not allowed to go out at this time and this. They were saying culturally we were able to cajole the white women more so than the Asian women. Those were what majority of the statements were saying. It wasn't to do with the religion. No one can say that Islam allows it because there are clear, explicit verses from the Quran, sayings of the Prophet that clearly, unequivocally do not allow that. Yeah, it's not allowed at all. But what's interesting here is, because you mentioned a few very good points. You said being ostracized from your community.
Yes.
Now here's the thing. When it comes to because the first time in Britain this was bought, the whole grooming scandal came out in the media is in 2011. Yeah, in 2011 it was a 4-page spread in the Times newspaper. That was the first time.
That was what, 2010-11, wasn't it?
2011, yes.
Yeah.
That was the first time. It was by Norfolk. Yeah, Norfolk was the guy who did the 4-page spread. So then that same year, Nazir Afzal, the chief prosecutor, was put forward by Keir Starmer, and there were some cases of grooming that were closed. You were right, because towards the beginning there was a bit of foul play taking place. However, in 2012, Nazir Afzal opened up the many grooming cases and put hundreds, if not thousands, behind the bars to such a degree that from Rochdale, from Rotherham. This was in 2012. And I don't know if you've seen now, he's getting on a bit now, Nazir Afzal, but he was the chief prosecutor who opened the grooming cases and then slung them in prison and mentioned clearly these are Asian grooming gangs in Rochdale, Rotherham, opened up the cases. There's Adil Ray, who does Good Morning Britain, OBE. He is an Asian, he's a Muslim Pakistani. He did a documentary on grooming gangs. It came on the BBC. A couple of years later, there's a Pakistani woman, Tazeen Ahmed, Channel 4. She did a documentary on it as well. So the Muslim community has been vocal about this. Ever since it's come out, you have chief prosecutors that have held hands with the Brits in throwing away these vile cancers to society, frankly. But here's the thing. There's a headline, if you search for it when you go home, it's in the Independent, it's in the BBC, in all the major papers. It was 500 imams of 500 mosques that were unanimously talking about grooming in their respective communities in unison. Now, I don't know about, well, I do know, Friday is the holy day for the Muslims, Saturday for the Jews, Sundays for the Christians. But we all know not that many Christians go to church. There aren't that many Jews to begin with, so very few of them go to the synagogues. But a lot of Muslims, because it's the fastest growing religion, a lot of them go to mosque. So the Friday prayer is very significant amongst Muslims. So 500 mosques in unison were talking about the grooming gang in unison. And you know what the response from the imams in unison, the condemnations that were coming in, even though I haven't seen condemnations coming in from the Jewish community with what happened in the Balfour in Guatemala, where they needed hundreds of police officers to go in there because kids were not only being molested, they were molested and killed, and they were buried, and their bones were being dug up. The Balfour cult of Judaism.
I don't know anything about that.
But that's what I'm saying, John. That it's a religious sect. But these are headlines in the BBC as well. CNN, ABC.
Well versed, man.
I have to be, John. I have to, because
Whatever you do, you need to be.
I have to be. Because I was born and bred in this country, and I know that my religion has been an assistance to the Brits as opposed to the opposite. So when I hear this sort of stuff, I want to know about this, because if my community is held responsible, I want to hold them responsible first. But if there's foul play taking place, I want to identify that foul play. But here's the headlines. Thousands of children being abused in the French church, French Catholic church, thousands in the Portuguese church, thousands in the Spanish church, thousands just by some individuals in Pennsylvania, let alone how much is actually taking place. But nobody, John says, these are Christian grooming gangs. These are Christian abusers. Or Balfour, the media.
Have been one-offs, haven't they?
No, thousands, John. Thousands.
Yeah. Well,
Thousands
not in
for
gangs.
decades.
Yeah, but
No.
there's singles, aren't they? They're doing it online. Some fat old geezer like me.
No, but John, when they say, listen to this, but listen to this though, when the headline tells you thousands in the French Catholic Church, this is in a religious institution.
Individuals, are we talking, or you think
We're talking about the Catholic Church. This is, forget gang. A gang is just like a handful of people.
Not yet.
A gang is a handful of people. I'm talking about an institution here.
Really?
This is bigger than a gang. Like gang is nothing compared to an institution. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, those gangs are thousands.
I'm saying, look, a gang. Look, when you see a gang in North London or South London or in Glasgow, you see that's a gang. When you say institution of thuggery, that is serious. That's how you had the likes of Pablo Escobar and all of these guys. These were institutionally thugs, or incorporated thugs in their communities. So institutionally, the Catholic Church has a lot to answer for. But John, as Muslims, no one is saying these are Catholic, that these are Christian institutions. We need to change their Bible. We need to change, and we need to interfere with the church. We say that I'm sure the Christians cannot be held responsible for the actions, even of these thousands.
Some do.
But I disagree.
People like me do, because I say it how it is. And
but I don't think you should blame the religion for the actions, even if it is of thousands. I think they misunderstood Christianity.
well, you just said about shouldn't blame religion,
Yeah.
but I actually do, because for me, if there was no religion, we'd have no wars for a start. And I think we'd probably have. Wouldn't we have?
Which religion started World War II?
Yeah.
Or World War One?
You can't really blame this grooming thing on religion, can you? Oh, wars we can, definitely. Give up wars, they'll be gone. Who do you blame for the grooming side and the sexualisation of children? I don't know. certainly couldn't blame. I don't think you could blame religion.
So living in the society that we're living in, which is an individualistic, capitalistic society that says that we need to take individual responsibility for everything to such a degree that even family values are being curtailed and disintegrated, I would say it's up to the individual. The individual should be held responsible, should be tried in the court. If held guilty, they should be slung in prison. Caitlin Spencer was a victim of grooming. She says herself, I saw girls that were non-white that were being abused, and I saw perpetrators that were white that were being done. And you know what she said? She said, I don't think you should be blaming only the Asians on this. And you know what she was said? She was called a traitor to her race. She'd written a book, Caitlin Spencer. She was due to speak in the House of Lords. They told her before she went on, blame the Muslims. And then when she went on social media afterwards saying, I don't agree with this, the patriots or the right wing, they went on her like a tsunami and saying, you are a disgrace to your race. Throw your kids in the English Channel. They should be removed. You are a disgrace. Why? Because they said you are taking away from our cause. But John, surely our cause should be against child sexual exploitation, whether white, brown, pink, blue, whatever your color is, whatever your religion is. I say if you're convicted, hang them. Hang them. No exceptions. You cannot be fiddling with kids. I'm sorry.
All right, no, I'll agree with that, but what I do think is that your communities accept those perverts back into the community too easily, and you know.
No, but remember, John, you said
the proof is
you don't.
That there's loads of them, you know, back as taxi drivers, back as delivering food, you know, around town, which is what a lot of them are doing in the first place.
But here's
with the girls moving them around. But they're back there doing it again. I'm not saying they're messing around with children, but they're back there in the community, being accepted. In my community, that wouldn't be the case.
So,
they are ostracised and sent everywhere else, but they're not in our communities.
I disagree, because the principle of these communities is that you get put on a register, you get brought back, and you do get integrated within society. In fact, there's a case that came out in the BBC. There was a group of white Satanists. They have an online ring in which they get kids to commit suicide, to take their own lives, to kill their cats, to kill their pets, to harm their parents, and to have illicit relations with each other. And one guy was convicted, I forget his name, and you guess how many years he got in prison?
I don't know.
Take a guess. 6.
Yeah.
6. You get 9 if you go to central London and you deface the Winston Churchill statue. You get at least 9
years if you call a police dog a rat.
Well, there you go. This is sickening. And what was 6 years in prison going and playing your Xbox, getting a 3-course meal, a nice mattress, and central heating? This is not the way you deal with it. And he's out. He's out. Like, how is this even possible? They come, they just get put on a register, that's it. Once you do your time, you're done. It's finished, it's game over. In our societies, you know what happens? No one's going to give their daughter to you. Your friends are careful. I know, in communities, these people do not get welcomed back. Just like in British society, when you come back, you do have to work, because otherwise you're going to starve. And if you don't work, then you get put on the dole. And then we, the taxpayers, have to pay for the benefits. So the government says, let them have their jobs, let them do their thing. We're going to keep an eye on them. And of course, there's that whole...
Well, I can tell you it's our belief in the white community, it's our belief that they are accepted back. So, you know, I'm going to do something.
In our community, John, we hang them. It happened in Somalia. Child sexual abusers, they were hanged. They were beaten. They were killed. I don't think they've got any place in society. If they've been convicted and it's been proven they're fiddling with kids, I'm sorry, the world is a better place without them.
Yeah.
And I think the British government needs to increase. I mean, I have a friend that works in the police, and he's saying he wants to be a prison guard now as well. And he's saying that the prisons are overrun by criminals. Yeah, so the society that we have can't even deal with what's going on now. The prison system is not doing its job.
No.
The police, I saw in front of my house, somebody was breaking into a car. I called the police. Yeah, so what color pants is he wearing? I don't know, blue. How tall is he? I don't know. He's got good height, good genes. Can you come? No. We need more information here and this and that. The guy did his thing. He was long gone. He'd probably reached Mexico, and the police came thereafter and said, "Okay, what was the description?" I said, "I gave the description to Margaret." "Well, I'm sorry. Don't be rude, please. Can we get a description?" This police. I mean, what's going on here, John? Like, we need to take these things seriously.
Well, I'll give an example. I do. Have you heard of auditing?
Auditing, yeah.
Auditing, well, that's what I do as well.
Oh,
I do
nice.
some auditing. Someone phones up and said there's a bloke outside my factory and he's taking photographs. He's got a camera, he's taking photographs.
Yeah,
Within 5-10 minutes, the police are there.
exactly.
My sister had a break-in, and while she was in the house, they were breaking in, phoned the police. It took them 3 weeks to get there. 3 weeks. Because when they phoned back and said, "Oh no, he's gone now,"
Yeah.
there's no rush for the police to turn up. The burglar's gone. Because I'm standing
Appalling.
out there with a camera. 3 police cars normally, about 3 police cars, 5 or 6 coppers
Yeah.
for a man with a camera.
Even if you rob something from Tesco's, the cars will be there quicker than you can say hello. So that's the thing, John. I think we're both on the same page as this.
Well,
Because
we want the same thing.
definitely, and that's why you saw 2011 the first time it was said in the British public. By 2012, the chief prosecutor, Nazir Afzal, he was putting people away. You had a BBC documentary by Adil Ray. So a lot of these things were being covered in the media by British Muslims.
There was one bunch of 40, was it, or 42, and I think they were 100% Muslim. I don't know which town they came from. You know, where one big lot, 40 or 42 of them all went away. But that's the only one that sticks in my head. You know, you've been talking about thousands being put away. I haven't seen that.
So check Nazir Afzal when you get home. I mean, you're recording this as well.
Yeah, it's still going. No, it's dead.
Oh,
I've got no cameras.
because he did something on, he's done it on Channel 4, BBC, and check him out. Check out his record, because their records are online for you to check as well. And a lot have been put away, and a lot continue to be put away. But the thing is, the 20 recommendations that were not followed by the Conservative Party, and then now suddenly because of Elon Musk it's been brought up again.
Yeah.
When I think any society, whether Jewish, Christian, Muslim, whenever they do it, and there's another thing, John, to mention as well, that people assume just because someone's brown, they're a Muslim. You can film from here if you want.
Is that going video?
Yeah, I think you're doing selfie mode.
Selfie mode. I'm not very good at this, am I?
And then press record again.
I think that's...
Yeah, there you go, it's filming now. There's a timer. That means it's filming.
You mind if I ask you?
I think you're blocking. Yeah. If you're gonna have to hold it like that, because if you flip it the other way, you're gonna cover the camera.
Yeah.
So
At least we're both recording.
yeah. So, and also with these mug shots, do you see? So with these mug shots that you'll see, there's a reason why the term Asian is used, because when you see the CSA report, there's Sikhs in there as well, there's Indians in there as well, the Bangladeshis there as
The
well.
Asians, anyway, because the Asians include the Filipinos, the Japanese.
That is put in there. Well, that's in that criteria.
Yeah. I know
That's why
in
they
the
say
Asian
Asian.
criteria, but they're not doing. That most of Asia are not involved in child sex abuse, are they?
So this is So in Glasgow, if you look, when it comes to the gangs, majority of the gangs, of course, are going to be white, because that's what it is. In Rotherham, Rochdale, a significant portion of the population, there is a sizable population of Asians there. So of course, It's what Caitlin Spencer said. It's not what I'm saying. Caitlin Spencer said, I was in an area that was predominantly Asian, so majority Asians are going to do it. In London, of course, you're not going to see, there's a sizable population of Asians here. It's not happening over here. See sizable population.
Anyway,
Yeah, so when people say, firstly, it's Asians, no, it's sickos that have justified it in any sick and twisted way that they have. Like, there'll be white people that'll justify it and say, hey, you only live once, or it is what it is, I'm going through what I'm going through, I should be able to do what I want. It's sick.
About brown people, you're not brown, are you?
Well,
you're as white as I am.
Well,
Where is it?
well, yeah, my heritage is Pakistani, so unfortunately, yeah, I'll in this, when it comes to the grooming, I'll get thrown in with them. When it gets to anything else, I get. So it's, but that's the thing, John, that I think there's more that unites us than divides us. And I'm glad that you asked these questions, and hopefully it will be of benefit to the viewers at home. I hope it was of benefit to you as well. And
I hope whoever cuts it doesn't, puts in the bits that maybe are not comfortable, because the one thing I do hate is like mainstream media,
Yeah.
when they put something out and they just cut out the important bits.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned.
well, I think, well, the way I do it, I mean, that
Where
one,
are these going?
the big one there, that's my one. So that we put the whole thing up.
Where do you? I mean, mine's on YouTube.
Mine's on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
So last week I spoke to another gentleman about grooming as well. People want to hear what people have to say about this, because normally social media puts you in an echo chamber. If you like certain videos, if you watch certain videos, the algorithm gives you more of those videos because they want you to remain on their platform more often and for a greater duration of time. So Speaker's Corner, I think, is good for us to get out of our echo chamber, put those uncomfortable questions like you've said forward, and see what the other person's saying. If it's logical, if it makes sense, if the person is bringing evidence forth, then we accept their claim, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. If they aren't bringing evidence, if they're umming and erring, and if they, if they're not hitting the mark, then they should be grilled, to be honest. Because, our kids, they are kids, for God's sake, and they should feel safe, no matter what the situation, no matter how people want to justify their lifestyle. Because another question, another point that gets brought forward is these are very economically deprived areas. So you have people that, but rather than talking about that, people want to hijack the issue and make it about certain race and a certain religion. However, even the J report, the woman that wrote the J report, she said, I also, in her recommendations and in her kind of thing, and Ella Cobain has said this, Caitlin Spencer said it, to relegate the abuser and the person being abused to a certain race or religion is dangerous. Reason being, there are people being abused of various faiths, various skin colors. There are people doing the abusing of various faiths, various skin colors. And when you relegate it to certain skin color, certain faiths, what you're doing is you're taking away from those victims and those perpetrators that are doing it, that are now given a freedom pass to just go past.
Because some of the girls, they weren't all white. So you have to think to yourself, well, why would they go for, I can't call them brown faces.
Yeah.
Reason being, all I can think of is that those girls were acting like white girls, maybe. So, they weren't covering up, maybe, skirts too short.
Thing is, John, you can say that, I can't say that.
No,
if I say it, I'll be seen as someone justifying it.
Well, no, I'm not, certainly not justifying
I know you're not,
But I'm trying to think of why would they be going for their own, if you like, and that's the only reason.
It's because they're sick and twisted. They're sick and twisted, John.
Because they are anyway.
And you see the amount of cameras here, I don't care. If someone's done that, they've been convicted. I'm sorry, that's sick. You have to sort yourself out. Frankly, if you were in a country that was much and had greater punishments, I would be all for that.
Yeah.
This is how can someone do something like that? And if someone does, how can they be allowed to roam the streets?
Hang them, or better still, chop their nuts and chop their parts off.
Yeah.
That's got to be worse than being hung.
Chop them off, stick them in a pickle jar and give them and tell them to take it home and show it to their family. It is what it is.
I think we're nearly done, you know. I don't think we've got much else to say. And I don't think we've disagreed with too much.
So John, like I said, I mean, I think it was definitely enlightening. It's good to deal with these uncomfortable questions. If you do ever have any more questions, I'm normally at Speaker's Corner.
I'll be here again.
Yeah, fantastic.
I've enjoyed myself today.
Thank you. Take it easy, John.
And you, tell me your name again.
Zishan.
Did I tell you I've got dementia? So
You did,
a
yeah.
lot of it, I can't.
I'll give you my surname. My surname is Ali. That's easier to remember. Ali. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go and put some batteries back in all my cameras now.
Yeah.
The problem is that I've been standing too long and my feet are rooted to the ground.
There's that. I've seen certain people have that chair that it looks like a stick, but then when you put it down, it doubles down into a chair.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yes. Yeah, I've seen those.
Maybe that might help.
It might. I'm going to walk off very slowly, otherwise I'm going to fall over.
Take it easy, John.
Nice to meet you guys, and thank you very much, photographers.
Take it easy.
Don't edit it too much.
Yeah. They're good when it comes to this stuff. They put the whole thing up.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks.